Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Kingdom Hearts 2 Critical Mode video walkthrough. We are country? Well, I'm a little bit country. No, we're not country at all. We're not even remotely country. We are playing a video game. It's called Kingdom Hearts 2, and we're now approaching Pride Rock by doing the Gummy ship. I have no idea why I got the word country from that, but apparently my tongue is having a mutiny. So, standard Gummy ship fare here. It's exciting, it's fast-paced, it's much more interesting when you've got a good Gummy ship. We're gradually getting there. We're gradually getting to the point where we've got more lasers, more shields, more evasive techniques, more specials, but we're still not where you want to be if you're going to come back here and go for the scores and get the items. But these parts are mandatory, so they have to be done. However, the level we're going to is not mandatory at all, but I'm covering it because I think it's great. And so is this music. I think that's what I love about Kingdom Hearts so much. It's colourful, it looks fun, the music is happy. It's one of those games where it's really difficult to be angry with it. And don't get me wrong, you can get angry with it, like you can get angry with anything, but afterwards, you're immediately happy again because there's a really nice catchy tune on and you're doing something silly with Donald and Goofy, and I think I appreciate it now as I'm getting older, more so than I did when I was young when I played it. And that's not to say I'm not young, there's no existential crisis here, folks. But you get what I mean. It's one of those things where there's this expectation that a lot of people have, which I think is a misconception, which is this notion of growing up. And that when you grow up you have to be, I'm not going to say sensible because it's the wrong word, boring is the word that it really should be. You know, self-serious, boring, uninteresting, which I think is a complete misnomer, ridiculous and stupid. However, some people adhere to this, and they're old men by the time they're 20, and they're the type of people who are parasites, who literally exist to bring people down. They're like bad wallpaper, they just can't stay up, they can't do anything, they're just there, they're just a fixture, and they're dull, they're mind-numbing, they're the death of creativity, and they would probably call a game like this childish. And fuck those people. Because just because something happened in your childhood and you're now older doesn't diminish the value of that childhood experience. If anything, it edifies it. It makes it grander. Because you have all this wealth of experience, all this wealth of knowledge and insight, and you learn from it, and you get to address it with a completely different mind, because you're a completely different animal now as you've matured, and I think that's a wonderful thing. And that's coming from a guy whose parent, to this day, keeps telling him to stop watching cartoons because they're for kids. So, I know what I'm on about when I talk about such things, and there can be a lot of pressure to stop liking the things you like. And the great thing about that is, if you're in that kind of situation with that kind of pressure, is there's no wrong answer there, folks. There truly isn't. If you like it, so enjoy it. You don't have to enjoy anything for other people. If you're that way, you're probably already a smoker, you'll probably be on crack and crystal meth, and then you'll be in the gutter giving guys blowjobs and be dead in 20 years. So you might not have lived a great life, but at least you've got death to look forward to. But this game is one of those things that you could look at it and perceive it to be childish, but it has a charm, and there's just something magical, because you get to draw on that part of you that played it when you were younger. And these enemies are really tricky, because they do big damage, but the trick with them is, if you can catch them on the reaction command to do the rodeo, you can take away their head, and you take away almost all their strength, and then you can just bully them like we're doing now. But how awesome is this? You either hate this level, or you love it. There's probably no middle ground, because you're a lion, for God's sake, and a pretty damn cute one too, and an awesome one. And not only is this great because it's so different to the other worlds, but you get the ability to do a fast run, which is my favourite aspect of this game. It's really, really good, but you can only do it when you're Simba, or I don't know what this version of Sora's called. Is it like Pride Sora or something? But I love just the differences in the moves, the animations, and just the way that you're so quick. Like, if Sora was this fast all the time, it'd be glorious. It'd be tricky to get used to, but I would definitely appreciate it. But you might want to commit this area to your memory too, because later on we're going to be chasing those hyenas that were voiced by Whoopi Goldberg and those other two people that nobody recognised or remembered. And you're going to have to stop them around this area, and it can be a little bit frustrating, that part, because they keep running away from you and the lock-on is not your friend. So this is a good idea to know where you are, know where it leads, and get that mini-map, you know, engraved in your brain. But a few things you'll see differently here. Whenever you do the modifiers on the standard attacks, in both the air and on the ground, your launch is going to look different when you press square, and your aerial combo is going to look different. And the easiest way to spot them is Sora spins in midair. I'm not too sure how he launches, but he does all these crazy multi-hit spin attacks, which are really, really cool, and you can chain them with standard combos, so it's a really fun character to play as. If I had any criticism for Pride Rock, it would be the same criticism I have for most of Kingdom Hearts 2. In their efforts to simplify the level design because of the complaints in the last one about the platforming and getting lost, I think they went a little bit too far, so it gets to the point where you literally go from A to B, you do nothing in between except for maybe 1 or 2 fights, then you fight a boss and you're done in 20 minutes. And I'm all for brevity, because I think brevity, leaving somebody wanting more, is much better than giving somebody more who wants less. Like a good example I think of brevity is Dark Souls, or the Souls games design in general. They generally give you this area, and once you're done with it, you can't help but go, what if this? What if this? Because it could be bigger, it could be grander, there could be so much more to it, but they've given you just enough of it so that you've got the belt around your bicep and you're already warming up the vein. But they've not given you too much where you're face down in the gutter dying on your own puke. So it's just that right amount of heroin dependency that keeps us all smiling and functional members of society. And I think it's a good thing, and Kingdom Hearts definitely suffers from that, and I think Birth by Sleep suffers even more. But a cool thing to say is one of my subscribers, or just a commenter, mentioned that they think that that design is the best the series has ever had, because it's just completely functional and fluid, and it works that way, so you never spend too long doing one thing. And whereas we might have disagreed, it is nice to hear somebody who has that perspective, because you know who the design is for. It's that kind of mentality, that kind of person, and they think it's great, which is awesome. I would just like there to be a little bit more diversity to it, a little bit more complexity, and maybe a bit more platforming, because as much as the platforming was shit on the first game, the platforming options on this, and especially Birth by Sleep, are so much better. And that's why I'm really excited for Kingdom Hearts 3. Because at this moment in time, it has the opportunity to be anything it needs to be. That was unfortunate, wasn't it? And I have no idea what that game could be. It could be destined to suck dick. It could be like Final Fantasy 15, which I fervently wish, I devoutly pray that Final Fantasy 15 is going to be great. But I can almost tell you right now, guys, I don't think it will be. I think Final Fantasy died with 10. I truly do. And unfortunately, I think we've been burying it for years. And I know a lot of people like 11. I know that there's quite a die-hard community for 12. And 12 was a good game. I thought it was a bad Final Fantasy, but I thought it was a good game. I can't redeem 13, I just can't. I think 13-2 was much better, and I think Lightning Returns was interesting enough and different enough to keep my attention, but I didn't get the Final Fantasy feeling when I played them, and that's why I played those games, so 15 has a lot to live up to. I didn't play 14, I appreciate that it's an MMO, and it's not really my thing. I hear good things though, I hear people saying it's great, but once again, I played World of Warcraft, it wasn't great, and there's people who say that's the best game ever made, and they've spent, longer doing that than they have sleeping, which baffles my mind completely, but they might think the same of me for, liking these games, or liking anything that I like. Because it's the whole one man's freedom fighter's another man's terrorist, isn't it? You might like reading books, to another person they hate reading books. They think reading books is boring and something that nobody should ever do. In fact, they're not even sure why they learnt to read in the first place, because you can get everything these days by pointing and shouting. And they're the kind of people that I'm hoping die in the grand flood that cleanses the palate of this world, but that would involve me being somehow religious, and unfortunately, guys, I can't really believe in that kind of stuff, because I have a brain. But keep on pushing forward this area. You should remember this place. I think it's the canyon that Mufasa fell into. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it to be that area. We're going to be moving, looking for Simba, because he's gone off with Timon and Pumbaa. And we're going to be killing some of the standard Heartless on our way there, while picking up these stickers, which I still haven't looked into putting them together. Puzzle pieces, they're called on this one. And a couple more synthesis items. But I don't know if I've mentioned, but a great way to tell if you've been through an area or if you're going back instead of forward, if the area tells you its name that you're about to traverse into, you've been there. If it's question marks, that's where you're meant to go, probably. But here we go again with one of these creatures that has the capability of doing massive damage to you very quickly. If this thing gets an attack off, it can suck big time. So you want to be either waiting for the attack, guarding it and stopping it and then countering, or you get the reaction command, or you get on the aggressive. Take it down before it can even do anything. But you can see in the distance right there, just in front of us, that stretch of jungle is where we're headed, I believe, which is a nice bit of foreshadowing that they've done there with the level design, which is really nice to see. I love that kind of stuff in games. I think it's clever. The last big moment of that for me was probably Evil Within, and a lot of people thought it was Jumping the Shark, where you magically got a rocket launcher at the end of that game, or you magically got a jeep so that you could shoot, but for the people who were paying attention or just looked at it a little deeper, they'll recognise that on Chapter 11 there was a jeep firing at you that you dealt with. And then later on, was it Chapter 14, there was a sadist with a rocket launcher who was attacking you, and it all kind of... Don't get me wrong, it's super lucky, it's very Deus Ex Machina, but it's still enough of a sleight of hand that it works, and I think that's cool. That's the ground one, by the way, folks. The move that Tiny Sora Simba just did, where he does the Pillars of Light, that is his launcher / his square modifier, I think. But here we go. One more zone here before we get to the area we need to be, and then there's going to be a lot more exposition, and then we're going to have probably Simba in the party. I do quite like this level though. It reminds me of course, the jungle off of Kingdom Hearts 1, which was probably one of the bigger offenders for the level design, because you were going back and forth and it wasn't a short journey, and it's one of the reasons why they trimmed out so much of the hard work or the trudgery that people didn't like. But it comes back to that same truism of you can't please everybody, you just can't. And it's counterintuitive to think you can, but I think everybody at some point tries. And you don't even mean to, it's kind of that ambivalence of it, like, we've got to try, let's just go for it. But this is nothing too complicated. Most of this game is very simple. Certain parts of it are very tricky, and it's generally the jumps in difficulty. In the standard fights, the only jump in difficulty you're going to see is going to be that attack that creature did that took off nearly all my life. For the most, you can get through it doing whatever you've been doing the entire game. The other alternatives are the bosses. Every so often a boss will come along and it'll one-shot you, or it'll do something you can't get away from, or you'll not be able to hit it consistently, so you're risking taking too much damage and not dealing enough damage to it. Those are the situations where the game becomes tricky on critical. And those are the situations that get exponentially more trickier on level 1. But make sure you loot the entire area. Half the time it's maps and potions, but the one time you think it's a map or a potion, it could be something really good. And as confusing as that looks, believe it or not, that's what the game does. You go through that door, there's a cutscene, and then you're back in the room you were just in. So, there you go. But that technique right there is called Wildcat, I believe. It is the limit that you can do with Simba. It's one of the limits that I don't mind using too much. Mainly because you have to have Simba in your party here, so I keep it on just for the sake. It's also really good against Scar, who is going to be coming up as a boss pretty soon. And I'm sad to say that I couldn't actually tell you whether or not Jeremy Irons plays him in this game, his voice, but I'm almost certain he doesn't. Just because he's probably, quite busy and maybe not too attached to that character. I had a lot of respect for Jeremy Irons, and then I listened to him in an interview, and it really, really scarred my impression of him, because I think of him as this awesome actor with this iconic voice who played a great villain in Lion King, played a great villain in Die Hard with a Vengeance, and has been a consummate professional working in films, for the last 30 years, 40 years, I'm not too sure, I've not checked his IMDb, but I had a mad respect for him and liked him a lot. And then on this interview, he was talking about gay marriage, coming off as a fucking fossil when it comes to ignorance. And he was essentially saying what would stop him from marrying his son and getting his inheritance and all this other stuff. And the interviewer just kind of stared at him. It was hilarious because he was completely serious. He's like, well, that would be incest. And he was comparing gay marriage to incest. And not only incest, but incest with the fraudulent intent of inheriting and avoiding tax, I think. Like, it was just horrible. And it's that moment where, like, my jaw hurt so much I thought I was going to pass out. It was just, oh my goodness. It almost destroyed the image I have of an actor that I've enjoyed his work. And it's that weird thing, isn't it, of we watch these actors do these roles and that's exactly what they are. Yet we idolise this impression of them, which is just this cast. It's a mask of them. And I, for one, am happy we don't, well, unless you buy those fucking magazines that's like, look at the crack of this guy's ass, or, look at side boob on Jessica Alba, she's getting fat. Like, all that nonsensical magazines. But I, for one, am glad we don't get to see celebrities out of their roles unless you look for it. Because I think the people that they are might not be the people that you wish they were. Or the people that you've got in your head of them. Because they can do no wrong and they're cool in this film. And it's just one of those strange things that every so often you just get Jeremy Irons on a TV show comparing gay marriage to incest, and you think, you're a fucking idiot.